I'm at the point where I ended two of the previous videos, opposite the Thong Heng supermarket in Headington, and I'm going to see a unique, what you might call an art installation. People who live in Headington or who know it, that phrase will be enough to give it away. Others, you're in for a surprise. So I'll walk back from my starting point here. I just chose that as a reference point, which some people who've seen my earlier videos will know. I'll walk back onto the main Headington Road. So it's never attractive at this time in the afternoon. It's full of school traffic and people going to London and people coming from London. That direction is east. That's north. That's west. I'm going to walk round to one of the other side streets. So I'm still on the main Headington Road. This is where most of Headington's shops are. And as you see, it's also the main bus route. Okay, get ready. That is the famous Headington shark. It's 25 feet long, headless, weighs 400 weight, is made out of fiberglass, is called Untitled 1986, and was made by sculptor John Buckley. And the person whose house it was an American student, law student, I think, from Balliol, called Bill Heine. At the time he ran two cinemas. That was in 1986, and he became a presenter from Radio Oxford 2 years later. But however much fame he had for the cinemas, the shark immediately got him a lot more. This thing suddenly appeared on Saturday the 9th of August 1986. It was lowered by crane in the early hours of the morning, and not coincidentally, this was the 41st anniversary of the bomb being dropped on Nagasaki. And bomb is part of the theme. Bill Heine wrote or said that the shark was to express somebody's feelings of total impotence and ripping a hole in their roof out of a sense of impotence and anger and despair. It was saying something about C&D, nuclear power, Chernobyl and Nagasaki. And the shark has gone down, as they say, in the annals of planning history, because the City Council, Oxford City Council, tried very, very hard to have it removed. They started off by arguing that it was a danger to the public, but Heine had made sure that it was installed on top of special support girders, and he had an engineer certify that they were safe. So that didn't work. And then the council claimed that it was a development in the sense of Section 22 of the Town and Country Planning Act 1971. And what that means is that they were trying to say that it was the same sort of thing as another house or a house extension or maybe even a shed, I don't know, a dwelling that had been built without permission. Well, I'm not sure that would have worked anyway, but Heine retrospectively put in a planning application. The point of the original thing was that the council had claimed it was a development that had not been applied for planning permission for. So Bill Heine put in a retrospective planning application, and the council rejected it. So that was number 2. So Bill Heine then went all the way up to the top and applied to the Secretary of State for the Environment. In 1986, we had a Conservative government, and the Secretary of State for the Environment was Michael Heseltine. And he was very reasonable about the whole thing. And indeed, he supported the shark, in a metaphorical sense, that is. As far as I can work out, what the council really objected to was, firstly, the idea that somehow the shark was not in harmony with its surroundings, and secondly, the idea that there would be a sort of shark proliferation all over the city, that people would start putting sharks through their roofs and other things too, like giraffes or impalas or warthogs. Well, Heseltine wrote regarding the disharmony, "It is not in dispute that the shark is not in harmony with its surroundings, but it is not intended to be. The contrast is deliberate. Into the urban setting crashes the shark." And he went on to say that such incongruities can be much loved. Disharmony itself is not a reason for removing sharks from the roof. And regarding the proliferation of sharks, it was noted that in the 5 years, at the time it was 5 years since the shark was installed, there had only been 2 applications for other sharks. and those were baby sharks in a roof in Iffley Road. So the idea that everybody would be installing fiberglass animals in their roofs was a bit far-fetched. And so here we still have the shark. Let's walk around it. Now this is one thing that I'm sure does annoy residents, the number of people who they see taking pictures of the sculpture. But in absolute terms it's pretty small, it's not much of an inconvenience. As I say, the shark has no head. You can't see that from here. Thanks. That is the shark's underbelly. Okay, well that is the Headington shark, and it's a nice little lunchtime walk if you're nearby, and it's certainly one of the best known features of Oxford. I'm going to walk back now to the city centre, and I'll say a bit more about shark related things. A few years ago I happened to be in Summertown late one night, which is more or less direct north of the city centre, and I was walking into the city along the main road that connects it, Banbury Road. I think I probably wanted to go to the Bodleian, and it was still light. It was the latest summer evening, and an American couple, hailed me and asked me whether I could tell them anything that was worth seeing. I said, let's think about it. I'm going in that direction anyway, so I'll walk with you. And I started thinking, what could they see at 8:30 at night? See the outside of the colleges, but the colleges are pretty fortress-like, really. The most attractive bits tend to be on the inside, and they'd be closed to visitors by then. Likewise with places like Blenheim Palace, even if it was nearer. The Botanic Gardens has some spectacular plants, but that's closed. So then I thought, okay, shark. So I said, right, we'll walk to the city centre, and then we'll find a bus stop, and if you're willing to take a bus, I'll take you to Headington and show you something you've never seen before. And they agreed. So I walked to the city centre, and we found the bus stop for, I think it was a number 7 bus. And I probably paid for them. It was only £2 or so each. And all three of us got on the bus. And it started off up Headington Hill in the opposite direction to what I'm doing now. And I have to say, they were almost as amazed at the bus as they eventually turned out to be at the shark. because it seems that in their part of America, only lunatics and people who were sort of metaphorically dribbling at the mouth got on buses. If you got on a bus, you were a fair candidate for being shot or something. So the idea that they could get on a nice, quiet Thames Transit number 7 with clean, checkered, blue and gold seats, and a driver who was actually respectable to the customers, and customers who weren't kicking each other's shins or upending cans of alcohol. That was a new idea to them, and also quite a relieving one. So it was that sort of bus, that one that's just going there. So I waited until the bus got to the stop nearest to the shark and got off and showed them the shark, and they took some photos. And then I said, "Are you okay to go back to the centre of Oxford by bus?" And they said yes. And they also offered to buy me a meal. So I said, right, it has to be somewhere close to the bus route and close to the hotel. And I remembered that there was quite a nice Thai restaurant in St Clements, which is the bit of land at the bottom of Headington Hill. So I said, "Are you okay with that? Are you okay paying for me there?" And they said yes, and we had a very nice evening. And then they went off to the hotel. They were from Boulder, Colorado, and I think the man was Iranian originally, possibly Iranian and then American naturalized. So that's my little story about showing other people the shark. Personally, I think it's a shame we don't have more of such artworks. There are towns, probably mainly in other countries, which do this rather more, and where the local council or municipality organise things. I've mentioned before, when I described in senior the college honorary degree ceremony, that I'd witnessed a related ceremony in Portugal, and the town I was there had a number of rather peculiar sculptures dotted around. For example, an angel in what looked like a film director's chair, and a chicken foot sticking out of the ground with, I think there was a guitar in it. Another time I had to stay in Holland for a time. I think it was in a little town called Zeist near Utrecht. And they had a set of art installations called zitwerk, which means sit work. Sit as in sitting. Dutch is very close to English. And the ones I saw were mainly a stream of little wooden chairs, rather like Windsor chairs, floating down the river that went through the middle of town. Can't at the moment think of any other such in Oxford. There are one or two artworks that have been put up generally by students and tolerated, but they're all fairly small scale. I think the most famous is the dinosaur. There's a road called Keble Road. No, it's not Keble Road. I can't remember whether it's Keble Road or Blackhall Road. There's a road that goes round the back of Keble College. And there's a long red brick wall running along part of the road. And sometime, probably in the 60s, some student chalked a dinosaur. Typical representation of what was called a brontosaurus at the time, with was it brontosaurus or no, sorry, stegosaurus, because it has spikes, sawtooth triangles along its back and a long neck. And there was a legend saying, "Remember what happened to the dinosaur." And then somebody chalked another dinosaur in red and wrote, "Remember what happened to the red dinosaur." If I remember rightly, that wasn't very well drawn. And I think somebody also did a blue dinosaur, possibly without a caption. The white dinosaur was the longest lasting, and up until the middle of this year you could still see traces of it, certainly enough to know that it was a dinosaur. And I think I then came past it one day, and Keble had repainted or re-chalked it. So there it is again. I can't remember whether they did the caption, "Remember what happened to the dinosaur," as well as the picture itself. I suspect that somebody will have immortalised this in Wikipedia. So if I search Wikipedia for "Remember what happened to the dinosaur," I'll find an article about it and maybe even a picture. Okay, well I'm now getting near to the sloping bit of Headington Hill, along which I'll walk down into the city centre. So Headington and the Shark are in that direction. There is an awful lot of Headington round here that is occupied by Brookes University, and I think that's part of it. Brookes is Oxford's second university, and it's considerably newer than the first. When it was founded, which was probably in the late 60s or early 70s, it was what was called a polytechnic. It taught advanced topics, but with a more vocational slant, less emphasis on research for its own sake, and more on making or building things that had some sort of purpose, let's say, sort of engineering mindset. And then in the 80s, I think it was, such organisations were turned into universities with the same legal status as somewhere like Oxford University. So the distinction in name vanished, though you could generally tell for a time anyway which was which by looking at the buildings, since the polys tended to be rather brutalist. And Brookes has been growing massively, and it has a lot of buildings along Cuckoo Lane, or along Pullens Lane, which leads to Cuckoo Lane. And to my mind, it has rather too many buildings, because it seems to have gone overboard in the past year in knocking down a huge number of trees and building student village after student village. That's Pullens Lane. And Cuckoo Lane runs off the right, some way up. So this is quite nice. This is now walking down Headington Hill. This is very leafy here. Now coming towards the bottom of Headington Hill. That's what they call South Park, which is where people play games of football, and a fair is held there every so often. And people sunbathe and so on. It's actually quite wet. Up to I don't know, you see on the right there's a lamp post there, and then there's another lamp post on the right. What the ground level is there inside the park, it can still be wet as far up as that. That's Headington Park, which is somewhat more formal. Nice trees and Headington Hill Park, sorry. Nice trees and flowers. This is St. Clements.
That's not even yellow though.
It's mustard yellow.
Exactly, that's not even yellow.
It's
though.
still a counter.
So.
If you don't mind me asking, what type of video you shoot?
Sorry, I got interrupted there by somebody asking me about my YouTube videos.
8 maybe, and so when you're 8,
So this is still St Clements. Oof. Sorry, I almost slipped on an ice cream wrapper.
Like, just like
Non hai provato o non l'avete?
yeah, that's so far.
I see you anyways.
Dai.
Camera away.
Now coming to the end of St Clements, I have to say it's not a particularly attractive area. It's got some nice buildings, that for example, but and the old stone, I think it's stone, Port Mahon pub, but it's always completely hidden by traffic. So all you ever see is glimpses of grimy exterior walls, and not very much of them, between cars and vans. And it's as noisy as hell too, as you can hear. So I'm coming up to Magdalen Bridge. And unfortunately this is full of traffic too. It all comes from further back on the right, down Longwall Street. Hi.
Dördüncü olacak.
And here we have the first sign of the old buildings, or almost the first sign. So I think what Oxford must have looked like before the suburbs, and before even half-modern buildings such as those in St Clements were built. There'd have been very little except fields, marshes, causeways and assorted tracks, and of course lots of streams. And then, rising out of the flatness, you come across something like an Italian hill village. All these wonderfully worked buildings. It must have been so impressive. is one of the iconic views of the high street.
In life, like the rainfall was bad on it. It's so
as living
I'm just trying to avoid actually having to do stuff.
After like 6. And then like some like slightly.
Okay, so that is Carfax Tower.
Otherwise I'll be getting...
And I started off showing you the Shark on New High Street in Headington, which I'd walked to from here, but I didn't think there was much point in showing that too. I started off showing you the Shark on New High Street in Headington, And I then walked back onto the main road in Headington and along and down Headington Hill and past the parks and through St Clements and over Magdalen Bridge and up the High Street and to Carfax. So this is Carfax, and I'll see you next time. Bye.